Okay, so hi everyone. We'll start because it's already 2:30. So this talk will be about WebRTC, and it won't really be very much technical talk. I just want to show you some cool applications that actually use this API. So my name is Szymon Nowak. I'm from Katowice, Poland, from a small company called Cowbell Labs. So how many of you have actually heard about WebRTC before? Okay, a lot. And how many of you have written any app that uses WebRTC? Like 5 maybe? Yeah, so hopefully after this presentation there will be more of you. So RTC stands for real-time communication. And it's actually a bunch of API. It's not a single API. It allows you to first capture various media, like audio and video. And what's much more interesting, it allows you to create peer-to-peer connections, which basically allows you to create a connection between two browsers. So till now, the whole internet was based on client-server architecture, and this, for the first time, allows you to have like client-client architecture. And the important thing is that this connection is truly peer-to-peer connection, so there is no server in the middle. So it's much more secure and usually much faster. So through such connection, you can transfer almost anything. So again, you can transfer audio, you can transfer video, and you can transfer also any arbitrary data. So when people hear about WebRTC, most of them at least, think about plugin-free video calls, which is true, sure, but WebRTC actually allows you to create much more awesome stuff than simple conference apps. So as developers, you don't really need any fancy infrastructure. There is small asterisk at the end because it's not entirely true. You need servers to actually establish the connection, but once the connection is established, you don't need any servers anymore. And your users, they don't need any plugins, and they don't need any third-party app accounts like Gmail or Skype, whatever. So it's really, really easy to use. Okay, so a very brief history of WebRTC. So the first spec was in late 2011. Over a year later, there was the first cross-browser video call. It's on YouTube if you want to watch. It was like a huge thing. It was a call between Chrome and Firefox. And another year later, and we finally had cross-browser data transfers in stable versions of both browsers. And 2 months ago, Hangouts actually use WebRTC on Chrome. So even if you haven't heard about WebRTC, you might actually already be using it. And it says kind of WebRTC because Chrome actually uses some non-standard stuff, and they also use native client for a bunch of stuff like image recognition and stuff like that. Okay, so let's start with some examples of audio and video applications. Conferencing first. I'll just show you 2 applications. The first one is Toki.io. It's really incredibly simple to use. So basically, you just type a name of the room. It gives you URL. You just send this URL to other people, and you have a video call with up to, I think, 8 people or something like that. So you don't need any account or anything like that. It just works. And it's actually written by a company called Endiet. And there will be later talk about &JS. It's the same company who wrote this project and &JS framework. So another project that's basically does exactly the same thing is called appear.in. It looks nicer. So the next time you want to have a video call with a client or something, I strongly recommend to use one of those. It's really, the quality is pretty good, and it's much easier to use. So I told you that WebRTC allows you to create peer-to-peer connection between 2 browsers, but it's not only between browsers. So here's a picture of a video call between iPhone and Firefox OS device. So iPhone, at least mobile Safari or desktop Safari, any kind of Safari, does not support WebRTC. However, you can still use WebRTC on iPhones. Google prepared native libraries for Android, for iOS, and there is a library in Node.js so we can use WebRTC on the server as well. So even though iPhone doesn't support it, you can still use it on there. So another pretty cool idea to use WebRTC is customer support. So I think Amazon actually has like the biggest WebRTC application ever because they have this service called Amazon Mayday, which basically allows you to tap a button and in a few seconds you get a live video connection with their support agent. And they see your screen. So if you have any issue, they can simply show where you should click to help you out. So it's actually quite easy to implement yourself. But if you don't want to, there is a service called One Click, which basically allows you to do the same thing as Amazon Mayday with just a few lines of code. So this way, users can have a live video connection with your support if you want something like that. So I'll show you right now a few one-to-one video calls applications. So they are really extremely easy to write, but I think they're quite interesting. So the first one is called Speaky.io. And if you want to learn a new language, it allows you to find a native speaker, and you can buy video lessons with this speaker. And of course, the whole video connection is done using WebRTC. Another really cool application is called Wrapped.fm, and it allows you to host live video rap battles. You don't have to participate. You can watch one as a guest. I really encourage you to do it because it's really funny. I won't show you right now because it's mostly used in US, so it's probably you can watch one in the evening probably. And the last one is like more serious. So it's called Be My Eyes, and it allows blind people to request assistance of a volunteer. So basically they can just point their phone to some, for example, label that they can't read, and it creates a video connection between them and the volunteer, and the volunteer can read it for them. So it's just one-to-one video call, so it's really incredibly easy to write, but it actually may have big social implications. So the first demo, that's me. So it's just one-to-one video call. However, there is a trick that both participants can actually select the language that they speak in. And this application will recognize what you're saying. It will translate it, send it to Google Translate, translate it to the language of the other person, send it over, the transcription and the translation, send it over to the other person through WebRTC data channels, and read it back. So here's how it works.
Hola a todos.
Hello everyone.
Je m'appelle Jeanne.
My name is Jane.
Comment allez-vous?
How are you?
Dankeschön.
Thank you.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.
Okay, so writing something like that is really simple. I wrote it in less than a day. It probably has plenty of bugs, but as you can see, sometimes it works. So far I've showed you applications that were doing connections between peer-to-peer connections between browser and browser. But you can actually do a phone call from a browser. So I have another demo to show you. I'm not sure if it's going to work. Okay, I'll just reload the page. That's number 45. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, so it works. Just hang up. Okay. So as you can see, you can make phone calls straight from your browser. So that's actually the whole code for the backend of this application. I don't expect you to like read it all. It just show you that it's like maybe 15 lines of code, and that's the whole code for the front end. So for making a phone call, you actually need some gateway between your browser and the phone network. In this case, I'm using Twilio service, but there are others as well. So we had a presentation about web components. A pretty good idea might be to create a web component that basically turns any phone number on any page into a clickable element that you can just click to make a phone call. So again, if you want to, for example, you have a phone number on your customer support page, they can simply click the number and make a phone call straight from your browser for free, which I think is pretty awesome. So this was browser to phone, but you can actually do it the other way around and actually make a phone call to your browser. So here's another demo. So this application is called Frisbee, and it allows you to create, to make like almost free or actually free international calls. So the way it works, you enter a number here, it makes a phone call, it hangs up, and then you call back the number you just were dialed. And if once you call back, it connects to your browser. So let's try if it will work. Allow mic, sure. Oh shit, sorry. Okay, so I got incoming call. Just wait for it to hang up. A few more seconds, okay. Call. Hello.
Hello.
So you can actually call your browser if you want to as well. And it's actually, this application is actually pretty usable because, like I said, it allows you to create to make international calls for free. Because if you enter like a Polish number, it will always call you from a Polish number. So if you have like free local connections, basically the call is for free wherever you make it actually. So another thing that you can do with WebRTC is image processing. And you can do actually any stuff you want. You can do motion detection, object tracking, face detection. If you combine all that stuff, you can do augmented reality. So one interesting application is Baby Monitor. So this guy wrote it as a simple experiment. It uses open source tracking.js library for motion detection. And whenever it actually detects a motion, it will send a notification to the browser console. So it's just a simple experiment. However, it could be very easily improved. So for example, instead of sending notification to your browser console, you can send it to your phone, where you could just tap it and get a live feed of whatever is happening, whatever triggered the motion detector. So we could use it, for example, as a simple surveillance system, for example. Okay, so another thing that you can do is audio processing. And there is another API called Web Audio API. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but the cool thing is that it can use and create media streams that are compatible with WebRTC media streams. It's basically the same object. So again, you can use it for stuff like measure volume, change pitch of your voice to talk like Darth Vader. And for example, mix and broadcast music. So another demo. Okay, just a sec. Okay, so I got a guitar here, and maybe short introduction. So this application is called Soundtrap, and it's basically a small music studio. It allows you to record instruments, your voice, whatever, apply various effects to it. It has also built-in instruments, and the cool thing is that you can actually record tracks with multiple users. So if you have friends, you can make a video call. And for example, you can guitar like a guitar track, and they can record like, I don't know, maybe keyboards or drums, whatever. So I'll just show you how it works. Raz. Okay, so it works. So that's just a clean instrument without any effects, but we can do some other stuff with it. So it can also analyze voice as well, I mean audio as well. So we got a built-in tuner. So we can drop a tuning a bit. Maybe not that low. Okay. So now let's switch it to something more interesting. So you have a lot of effects here. Like you can try them out. So let's add something like that. Right. Okay, that's all. Thank you. So basically, if you play any instrument, it's a really cool application. And like I said, it has a few built-in applications as well. I mean, few built-in instruments, so you have drums. Okay, just prepare. It was okay. So that's actually the whole thing. So another thing that you can do with WebRTC is screen sharing. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's called Chromecast. And it actually uses WebRTC to stream your tabs from Chrome to your TV. And it can be actually, screen sharing could be used for like plenty of stuff. For example, live streaming, you could live stream games. So you could create like your own version of Twitch TV, for example, that uses peer-to-peer connections, which might be an awesome idea. Another thing that you could do is actually live stream presentations. So if you are doing, for example, live coding and you have like a huge venue, it might be a really cool idea to use it to stream presentations so everyone could actually see what you're showing. So to avoid issues like that, I'm not sure if you can read it, but it says, raise your hand if you can't read this. So the last thing, so far I showed you all applications I've showed you were doing like audio and video transfer. So the most interesting part is actually data transfer. And WebRTC is really cool because it doesn't use TCP. It uses a protocol that is configurable, so you can configure it to be more like TCP, which is reliable, or more like UDP, which is unreliable. So with the unreliable version, you can have really low latency networking that can be used for lots of stuff, but the most interesting part is, of course, multiplayer games. So there is a game called Banana Bread, and it looks like, it doesn't work. Okay, so basically it's a first-person shooter game. It runs in a browser. It was made to show off Mozilla's ASM.js, and it uses WebRTC data channels for networking.
Why is your score really bad?
Okay, maybe just disable audio. Okay, so another game that uses WebRTC for multiplayer games is called CubeSlam. It's a very simple project. It was used for it was written as Google I/O experiment last year. So another thing is you can do with WebRTC is file sharing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this image, but basically it says that we had internet for decades, yet sending files is still something that we are struggling to do. So WebRTC actually solves this problem. So here's a small application that I wrote with a friend. Okay, it works. So on the left, left, right, I don't know. Say on the left, you have a video of Android phone, and on the right, you have a video of a desktop. Just wait a few seconds for it to load. So once it loads, it will show you the other person. Okay, it appeared. Now you can select a file. You have to confirm that you really want to send it. The other person has to confirm that they want to receive it. And bam, you just transferred a file between your computer and your phone. Ta-da. So it's really great. The whole idea was to build something similar to AirDrop built in macOS, if you're familiar with it. But it works between like any Firefox, Chrome, and Android phones as well. So another very similar application is called Rip.io. The cool thing is that it allows you to do video streaming. So if you want to send a video file to someone, they can start watching it as soon as they start downloading. They don't have to wait to download the whole thing. And another cool application is called ShareFest. So this application is more like a BitTorrent, because if, for example, if you have 3 peers and 2 of them have the same file, the third peer can download the file from the 2 other peers. So it should be, in theory, at least twice as fast. But ShareFest is like BitTorrent, but there is an actual BitTorrent implementation in a browser, which is really amazing. So there is a project called WebTorrent, and the cool thing is that it works on a server side and in a browser, thanks to Browserify. There is a page, instant.io. It was released like maybe a week ago or something like that, so the page is really crappy, but it works. Another thing is you can do with WebRTC is called CDN augmentation. So for example, imagine that you own YouTube, and there is like new Justin Bieber video or something like that, and there are millions of people who watch it at the same time. So to handle all this load, you would have to provide like enormous bandwidth. But with CDN augmentation, what you can do is create peer-to-peer connections between all people that watch the same video, and they can download the video from themselves, from the other peers, and not necessarily only from your server. So it can greatly reduce the load on your servers. And there was a company called PeerCDN. It was founded by the same guy who wrote BitTorrent client, and it was acquired last year by Yahoo. So the idea may sound strange, but I think it actually works. So the last thing I want to show you is, maybe not show you, but tell you about this, is app server. So you can actually have application server in your browser, which sounds a bit strange, but if you check it out, it's called Peer Server. Basically, you have the whole IDE, you have database, everything, and as long as you have the page opened in your browser, other people can connect to it. As soon as you close the browser window, the page disappears. Okay, so how does WebRTC actually work? So there is lots of stuff. Okay, I'll just very quickly. Okay, so there is, if you're interested in it, I strongly recommend you to watch this presentation. It explains WebRTC in technical details. There are a few open source applications that make it much simpler. So that's actually the whole code you need to create a video conference application. That's the whole code you need to create a chat on top of it. Browser support, of course, it doesn't work in IE and Safari. So according to Google, by the end of 2014, we should have almost 2 billion devices. Okay, so I hope that it was really fast because I had a lot of things to show you, but I hope that at least some of these projects you found interesting. And I really encourage you, it's not that hard, and I really encourage you to start writing WebRTC applications because there are lots of interesting stuff you can do with it. Thank you. So are there any questions?
So you mentioned that Google Hangouts uses WebRTC with some non-standard extensions, and I'm wondering why do they use non-standard extensions, and if there are maybe some limitations of the protocol? Do you know anything about it?
So they basically use non-standard extensions to test out stuff, basically. So for example, they have like a noise cancellation algorithm that is not implemented in other browsers. So for example, it works even not everyone may actually use WebRTC version of Hangouts. They are rolling it out like to only some portion of Chrome users. So basically they use it to test things, basically in real life, because there are like plenty of users that use Hangouts, and it would be really hard to test it like by creating some demo application that will be used by maybe 1,000 people or something like that. And they also use a native client, which is only in Chrome, for example, for image recognition and detection. So, for example, in Hangouts, you can, for example, put a hat on your head, right, or glasses or stuff like that. So all this uses native client, because I don't know, maybe it will be too slow in JavaScript. I'm not sure.
I wonder if the user of app with WebRTC needs to accept some permissions to.
Not really.
Okay, so you can.
Wait. So it depends really. So if the application wants to use mic or your camera, then it will show you a small bar at the top that asks you to allow that.
Okay,
but data transfer is you don't need any permission for data transfer.
Okay, so you can establish the connection peer-to-peer with somebody else's computer?
Yeah, but you can do exactly the same using Ajax to establish connection to your server. So it's not really it's not really a different thing.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, yeah, there are some like security, let's say, implications. For example, you can actually using WebRTC, you can figure out users' local IP, not only remote but also local IP. So it may not be very. I mean, the whole protocol is pretty secure, especially that the connection is like peer-to-peer between two browsers. So there is no server in the middle to actually hijack the data that is being transferred. So it's secure. But on the other hand, you can figure out, for example, users' local IP, which not everyone may want to.
Long wait. Thank you.
Okay.
About the security, is the connection between the peers encrypted, or do you have to encrypt it on top?
It's already encrypted. It's
Okay.
built in the protocol.
All right, so you show us some fancy apps, but I actually implemented a video chat for my customer using WebRTC, and we found out that if you have a couple of clients, well, the number of connections between those clients quickly kill the bandwidth, so you end up fallbacking to a server. I agree that it's a fine idea to do a video chat one-on-one, but if you have 5+ people in the chat room, it gets pretty much useless. Also, the noise cancellation thing you mentioned. We ended up implementing this ourselves, and it wasn't very easy. So this technology looks really good, but in this particular case, with video conferencing, usually you end up doing a video distribution server anyway.
So I only had like 20 minutes. So in the longer version of this talk, I had some slides about scaling WebRTC as well. If you're interested, we can talk afterwards, and I'll show you a presentation about scaling WebRTC to like thousands of connections. But basically, you're right. But it's an issue with any peer-to-peer architecture. It's not only with WebRTC. If you have like 10 peers, you'll have to create 9 connections to everyone. One of them. So it will. For example, Hangouts. I don't believe they allow you to have more than 10 clients or something like that. So it's also the same thing.